Welcome to the Bayesian Conspiracy. I'm Eneasz Brodsky.
I'm Steven Zuber.
I'm Jay Sticky.
And we are here to give you another episode. It's for the first time in, 2 months that all three of us have been in the same room?
Maybe three.
Maybe three.
Has it been? Huh. Well.
It's been a while.
Time is weird.
It's nice to be back together again.
Oh my god, yeah. It's so nice to be able to interact with human beings. Yesterday I went out to a restaurant, and I was able to sit down in the restaurant.
Oh, they're letting people in?
And they were letting people in. They were, doing, people had to wear masks at certain points, and then they spaced everybody the correct amount. So they were good. Even the people waiting outside, they had placed chairs the correct distance apart that people needed to wait for their table.
Cool.
But at one point, this, older man got up and just, was like, "You're all beautiful. It's so wonderful to see human beings again." Everybody, it was just this really, sweet moment, because everybody was like, "Oh, thank you." And they're like, "Yeah."
Have they increased prices in the restaurants?
No, seems like it's the same prices.
They gotta be running at a loss, though.
Oh, you know what happened? They did replace menus. I don't know if this is anything across the board, but they're starting to, I think, replace menus that you could get your hands all over and stuff with, they had a QR code on the table. You scan it, and it pops their menu up.
Huh.
That should have been a thing already. That's
I know.
Awesome.
Now, that's kind of one of the things that, I hate to say there's things I like about coronavirus, but it's forcing people to, adopt optimization things that they should have been doing already anyway. Like wearing masks when you're sick. They do that in Asia. I don't know why in the Western world it's like you can just cough all over everybody because I've got my rights, my rights to infect all of your children in my preschool by bringing my kid with the stomach virus.
We want to breed strong kids, so
yeah, I guess.
Shall we jump in then?
Yeah, we're doing our sequences.
Yes, we are.
And the first one is semantic stop signs,
Indeed,
which is very sneaky.
It's sneaky?
It's just got lots of S's in it.
Oh, okay.
Snaky.
Yeah, I guess that came out as sneaky.
Well, you don't normally
Semantic
hear the word sneaky.
Semantic stop signs are kind of sneaky.
Semantic stop signs.
Great.
Right. Who wants to kick us off?
I realize I've not said this out loud. I probably should have practiced. And the child asked, "Where did this rock come from?" "I chipped it off the big boulder at the center of the village." "Where'd the boulder come from?" "Probably rolled off the huge mountain that towers over our village." "Where'd the mountain come from?" "The same place as all stone. It is the bones of Ymir, the primordial giant." "Where did the primordial giant Ymir come from?" "From the great abyss, Gingnungap." I can't say that word. Breaks character for a moment. That thing. "Where did the great abyss," that word, "come from?" "Never ask that question."
Funny thing about that is something very similar happened to me when I was a child.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, where I asked, well, if God made everything, who made God? And I was told, don't ask that.
Yep, I was in a catechism because I was Catholic. I was the little asshole kid that was like, "Well, if evolution's not true, how come we've got bones from Eohippus, the dawn horse?"
Good Lord, what age were you in?
I was a little nerd kid.
Okay.
I loved dinosaurs. I loved horses.
I'm just curious what
I
age you were.
discovered Eohippus and all the early horse morphs before horses started looking like horses, and I was like, "It's a dinosaur horse!"
Nice, yeah.
And then I was really happy about the fact that it existed and would talk to everybody that I knew. "Did you know that there's this horse that existed that was the size of a pig and it had toes in it?"
But couldn't the answer just be God made it?
No, they didn't believe. Well, I think that hasn't the Catholic Church actually come back on its views about evolution. Now they're like, yeah, evolution happened, but God did it.
I mean, that is one of the things. I don't know if the Catholic Church specifically has grabbed that one. Probably.
I think they have, because they have
at some point
Vatican, and they have they have people in authority who are able to say the new official belief is that purgatory does not exist.
Yeah,
they did that recently too.
You can only deny, the existence of evolution for so long.
You know how we kept saying that purgatory exists and that you have to pay people money in order to get your loved ones out of there? Actually, those guys were wrong.
Wait. Purgatory isn't a thing anymore?
It hasn't been for decades.
Yeah.
No, you're talking about limbo.
Limbo,
no,
yeah.
Hitch talked about how they got rid of purgatory.
What the fuck?
I think there's some distinction between limbo and purgatory, but I don't actually know what it is.
Do people just go to hell for a period of time then?
I don't know. I don't think they do. It's all bullshit.
Well, I know, no, but the official Catholic doctrine was that no one goes straight to heaven because no one's good enough to. That you can tell if someone's made it to heaven or not when they can start appearing and doing miracles.
I don't know. I haven't been in the Catholic Church since I was little.
Like that's what a saint is. A saint is
still...
someone who has gotten out of purgatory and into heaven, and now they have access to the Jesus powers, so they can, grant miracles and shit.
My parents used to bribe me to go to church by buying me a box of Cracker Jacks, and they would have these little resin animals, like the Cracker Jack prize. So I would, grumpily shove myself into this horrible dress that I had to wear, made of curtains and horrible stockings and shoes that don't bend.
Made of curtains?
My grandmother made me church dresses out of some old curtains.
That's awesome. That's like total Sound of Music thing.
It is, but it wasn't good. Crinoline is scratchy.
Or like the Avengers when when Iron Man meets Thor, and he's like, "What is this, Shakespeare in the Park?" And he's like, "Doth mother know you weareth her drapes?"
So anyway, I used to eat the Cracker Jacks and then kneel on the floor in front of my chair at the church and play with the little animals on the seat of the chair while completely tuning out whatever was going on in the church, except occasionally singing one of the songs that I liked.
So, semantic stop signs is basically says why ask. It asks why would anyone accept God as an uncaused first cause? Because as any child will tell you, it doesn't make the paradox seem any less paradoxical, even if it's true. Right?
Right.
Yeah, that's the conundrum that every child stumbles upon at some point.
It's like, yeah, okay, so why does it stop there? So this was just an example of a semantic stop sign, which he used to make the point valent. Valent? Is that the right word?
I think so.
Okay, for us.
Because he's using, I believe that's Norse mythology. And so we don't have, in case Christians are reading it and they have personal experience with this, they're not reading themselves into it, personalizing it, until he mentions that, and this is also what we do with God, and then the, mysterious answers that comes after this.
Yeah. But his main point is that there are semantic stop signs in the world, which is, I guess, not at all controversial, which are just there to stop questioning and not really serve much other purpose.
Yeah, it seems like most, maybe all cultures have this sort of thing, because we as humans we don't know everything. We don't know everything now. We knew much less back then, and maybe it's just to shut up annoying kids. My parents called me Jessie YY when I was little, and that served as my semantic stop sign to shut up. I'm annoying people. I guess I shouldn't ask questions.
Well, and I think it's not just even a cultural thing. I think people do this all the time without thinking about it. That's the broader point. Just a few days ago, I was talking with somebody about, we mentioned the protest at the beginning of the episode, and someone had brought up the point, I wonder if, this will lead to a big spike in corona infections, and, it almost certainly will. And then I was thinking, well, if you're thinking conspiratorially, this might be why they're being so liberal with their use, why the police are being so liberal with their use of tear gas and other, things that make you cough. So they, they can be just standing, you watch videos of people standing on the sides of roads with signs, and then just cops roll the window down and just spray mace at the crowd.
Oh my God.
Do they do that?
Yeah.
Ugh.
And so it's if you're being conspiratorial about it, it's so it's this way they'll cough on everybody and then they'll all get sick. And then so I was mentioning that to somebody, they're like, oh, I think it's just ACAB. And so then I got to Google an acronym, which is just short for all cops are bad. And I'm like, that doesn't actually explain it though.
Right.
So in this particular case, ACAB was a semantic stop sign for whoever I was talking with.
That was a perfect example.
And it's the general rule is that it's very common to find people who will use and he uses the example of liberal democracy. That's the answer.
I was about to bring that up. That was pretty similar to that.
Yeah, but I mean, all the time people will just be like, oh, well, what about this?
Social justice people. It's a systemic inequality.
Yeah, the patriarchy or whatever. But that doesn't actually get in this. Will tie nicely into mysterious answers to mysterious questions, but that doesn't actually give you an explanation. And so certainly not for a particular behavior. In the case of cops macing people standing there. And I think there's probably better reasons probably less well thought out reasons than let's see if we can get them to spread COVID among themselves. That's why they're macing random crowds. But the general thing of you've got an answer that's cached somewhere that you toss out and like, yep, that sounds like an explanation. I'm done. And it doesn't actually give you any new information.
I think
right?
in those two cases, particularly the all cops are bad and the what was it, social democracy?
Liberal democracy.
Liberal democracy. It's also sort of serving as like, those sound like somebody's sacred cow, or somebody, like somebody's pet theory. Maybe it's just kind of a combination of, let's stop this line of inquiry because it makes me uncomfortable, and also say it's like Jesus did it. I mean, you're Christians want to bring up Jesus as many times as possible, and it seems like serving some kind of dual purpose there. First of all, inserting your pet theory anytime this kind of thing comes up, and secondly, like stopping those frustrating children who just want to understand how things work.
He does end it by saying, be careful not to create a generic counter-argument against things like, oh, that's just a stop sign. And what distinguishes a semantic stop sign is a failure to consider the obvious next question. Like, why are all cops bad? Or why would being bad make you do this particular action?
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, you can question the assumption behind that too. Like, is this even true? But the semantic stop sign in particular is like it just said, it's the failure to consider the next obvious question. Yeah. And so, well, why would liberal democracy solve that problem? Yeah. Not like, why is that the solution? Well, why don't women's pants have pockets? The patriarchy. Well, like, that's not, why would the patriarchy not want you to have pockets? Right? Yeah. Well, big purse market, I get, whatever, right? So, like,
it's all big purse.
Exactly. So it's this is less, and we chose a lot of charged examples, but those are the easiest ones to think of. But
I'm noticing like the urge to explain the whole history behind why women have no pockets because it's interesting, but it's also total sidetrack.
I've got mainly because it fucks up the silhouette if you put bulky things in. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and that would be my guess. I mean, it's funny because I've talked with women who have both said, well, I wish I could fit my phone in my pocket, and I can't wear those pants. They're too baggy. And I'm like, you don't get it both ways. Yeah. Like the reason I can fit my phone, the reason why it used to be I could ride my bike to Blockbuster, which is a very old sentence, and ride home with a DVD in my pocket was because my pants.
You went where?
My pants were huge, and I could put a whole DVD in my pants pocket and still ride my bike.
Yeah.
And the reason I could fit them is because my pants were big. Like, that you can't have, since we don't have, what do they call it? Hammer space, where I can put big things in small places.
But you do have MC Hammer pants, which have hammer space.
Exactly.
So in the 90s, I was totally wearing those like UFO pants, like the rave kids are all wearing.
Got to make your own hammer space in today's fashion.
That was the first time I had realized how pathetic the pockets of every like garment I owned were, because those are just pockets. Like they're just like, I think they called them parachute pants or something.
Yeah.
They were just covered in like unnecessary amounts of like cording, and almost like cargo pants or utility pants for like the military or EMTs would wear, but they were just fashionable, kind of with the Final Fantasy throws belts on everything. What are those belts holding up? More belts.
Those belts really weigh you down.
I mean, if you think about the fact that you do have to like put crystals and a bunch of accessories in order to get your abilities, but anyway.
Moving on to the next post.
Let's see. Did we say everything we wanted to say about this?
I think so. The main thing I think it was doing was setting up the next post.
I was gonna say, like, my go-to for what's this less wrong website about, what is the sequences you guys talk about. This is the one I send to people who ask me that. I think mysterious answers.
Yeah.
No, mysterious. Okay. Mysterious answers to mysterious questions to me is there's more to the volumes of the sequences than just like the main point of this. Mm-hmm. But I feel like this is the easiest way
a good stepping stone.
Yeah, I feel like it's my favorite stepping stone to show people like, yep, this is what it's talking about. And if this kind of captivates you at all or speaks to anything that you've noticed, and if you enjoyed reading this and it got your brain engine going, you will enjoy the rest of this stuff.
Excellent. Yeah, this is the real meat of these three posts, so I'm assuming we're going to spend the most time on this one.
Yeah.
It starts out with a quote from Lord Kelvin, was it? Okay, who, obviously the guy behind the Kelvin scale for temperature and a bunch of other things. He did thermodynamics, right?
That
he did a bunch of stuff. I think he was a polymath. Okay. Also, I don't know if we said the title, Mysterious Answers to Mysterious Questions.
Yes. But it starts out with a relatively long quote, not relatively long, with a quote from him about the Elan Vital stuff. Because back in the day, people didn't know why when you moved, you could move. Like they could see there's muscles attached to bones and stuff, but why do the muscles contract when you want them to contract? It is, nobody knows.
It's a long quote. I want to just read the last sentence. Modern biologists are coming once more to a firm acceptance of something beyond mere gravitational, chemical, and physical forces, and that unknown thing is a vital principle.
I want to quote a few things from here that he said, just to like point out this line of thinking. He said, life's power of directing the motions of moving particles in the demonstrated daily miracle of our human free will, and in the growth and generation after generation of plants from a single seed, are infinitely different from any possible result of the fortuitous concourse of atoms. And also later, animated creatures have the power of immediately applying to certain moving particles of matter within their bodies forces by which the motions of these particles are directed to produce desired mechanical effects. So, like...
TLDR, they got livers. What the hell is that? Livers are weird, though. You can cut them up, and then you can put a small part of someone's liver into someone else's liver transplant, and it'll grow back into a full liver.
Yeah.
Livers are weird.
Yeah. But no, the really interesting thing about that quote is, like, it really points out just how fucking mysterious this thing was. He was like...
To him.
Yeah. Like, apparently, living things can just move particles as long as those particles are inside their body at will.
Can I tell you a hilarious thought that I had?
If you say it into the microphone, yes.
Can I tell you a hilarious thought that I had?
Indeed.
When I was in the shower, so of course this makes it a shower thought. The beginning of this sequence is, imagine looking at your hand and knowing nothing of cells, nothing of biochemistry, nothing of DNA, and I was just thinking, imagine being really high on weed and looking at your hand and going, whoa, and then turning it over and going, whoa! But like, actually, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like one of the cool features of weed. Awkward. Is that it does kind of create that childlike wonder about everything again. Okay. And I think that psychedelics in general do that. Weed is a psychedelic. They kind of turn off your... You know how, like, the decor of your house just becomes invisible to you because you don't see it anymore because you see it every day. You know where it is. You don't look at it anymore. Mm-hmm. But it, like, sort of turns off that familiarity feeling. So, like, you can be on psychedelics and look at a blade of grass and be just, like, brought to tears by how amazing it is. I think that's, like, a cool and important thing to feel and to remember. And it doesn't have to be if you're on psychedelics. I was totally sober, just, like, riding a motorcycle through the mountains yesterday, and...
Which you should only do totally sober.
Yes. Yes, indeed. And
I think we're getting way off topic.
We are. I don't know. I like that about this sequence, though.
Yeah.
Where it's like, or rather, the idea of the semantic stop signs and the idea of mysterious answers is actually kind of bullshit, though.
What is that?
I mean, you know the Richard Dawkins book.
We haven't even gotten to what mysterious answers are, but
yeah. Well, maybe I'll save this. I want to talk about Richard Dawkins' book, Unweaving the Rainbow.
Shout out.
Steven's like fist pumping. Okay, let's talk about that after we describe what this is.
Okay. Well, as per the last line that you quoted, they came up with this theory of vitalism, which I guess theory is a bit of a stretch here.
This was the old days of science.
Yes. That the mysterious difference between living matter and non-living matter was explained by élan vital. It infused living matter and caused it to move as consciously directed. And, as you pointed out, the secret of life was infinitely beyond the reach of science. All we knew was that there was this élan vital that did things. But he points out that really isn't an answer at all.
Yeah, I like that he says, calling élan vital an explanation, even a fake explanation like phlogiston, is probably giving it too much credit.
Yeah, I like that. And this is the line that I always remember. It's the secret of life was infinitely beyond the reach of science. Not just a little beyond, mind you, but infinitely beyond.
What does that even mean?
I think the next line was, Lord Kelvin sure got a big emotional kick out of not understanding something. Yeah. And it's the idea that I don't understand this, and therefore it must be infinitely beyond the capacity of all human understanding. Yeah, but like you said, it's not even as bad as a phlogiston explanation. This is just like pure magic. The cool thing about vitalism is that, like, if if you think, oh yeah, well if the whole thing it just needs to be like, somehow magically or organically imbued or whatever, the idea of like controlling a golem with your mind makes kind of perfect sense. You just give it whatever Elan Vital juice,
Yeah.
and you can control it with your brain,
Right.
which is how we control our golem bodies, right? So why can't I just control a human-shaped golem?
Yeah.
That sounds like the kind of thing that would have been in theory.
Wait, so would you like
testable.
put your blood into the?
Yeah, you could squirt your blood into it to try it. That'd be a good test. You could
Fuck it.
You could fuck it. That's another way to put DNA into it. I was thinking to get more morbid. I mean, you could like, I don't know, cut off an arm and take the skin off of it
Through a
and
meat
put.
grinder and just
Oh no,
like.
I'm thinking just peel the skin off and then put that over like the glove, like the hand part of a golem,
This
and
is
see
like
if you
a
could
really
move it.
cool idea for like a really morbid fantasy magic system.
But in those limited senses, it is in theory testable. So
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I wouldn't want to be the person running these tests, or at least the guinea pig. But yeah,
right.
Eliezer does say that, and this is one of the things that I have really internalized. I don't know, he probably has to repeat this other places in the sequences for me to remember it this well, or maybe I've just read this post a lot, but that if I am ignorant about a phenomenon, that is a fact about my own state of mind, not a fact about the phenomenon itself.
yeah. I said the same thing when I was actually like reading these aloud with Phoenix this morning, and I said that exact thing. I was like, for some reason, this phrase always sticks with me. In fact, I've used it on people when like they've said, "Man, this is a really mysterious thing," and I was like, it doesn't have a mysteriousness property. You just don't understand it. Like, that doesn't make sense. It's your brain that's like currently not understanding the thing. The thing itself is not mysterious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. This quote, A, I find it very memorable as well, and B, is oft repeated throughout the sequences.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. He also mentions that to worship a phenomenon because it seems so wonderfully mysterious is to worship your own ignorance.
Yep.
Which sick burn, man. Okay, so he says vitalism shared with phlogiston the error of encapsulating the mystery as a substance. Fire was mysterious, and the phlogiston theory encapsulated that mystery in a mysterious substance called phlogiston. Life was a sacred mystery, and vitalism encapsulated the sacred mystery in a mysterious substance called elan vital. Neither answer helped make some outcomes easier to explain than others. So yeah, just took the mystery and kind of made people not notice it's a mystery anymore by saying that it's the answer.
I kind of brainstormed a way to check if something is a semantic stop sign is like, why does this work? If you can say it in this voice, magic, or aliens, or elan vital, then it's probably like it has a higher probability of being a semantic stop sign. If it's like
Can't you say anything that's
gravitational
sort of-
forces,
Yeah,
it doesn't sound
exactly.
right though.
You can
Like,
say gravity.
But
Totally
you
say
can't.
gravity.
But you can't say it for that. Like you can't give a long-winded explanation in that voice to run with the idea. So
Well-
like, well, oh man, why does this happen? What why do when I whatever insert chemistry here? I was going to give out some lame example. If the answer is like why that happened, and you're if someone asks why did that happen, and you say chemistry, that's not really an answer.
Right. Yeah.
So like you're on the right track.
although
kind
that is
of.
a really funny like snark.
Yes. We used to have a joke at work where like we'd be discussing a problem and then we'd be like, oh yeah, you just got to code it. And, like so that was our go-to like mysterious answer to mysterious question. Have you tried coding it yet? Yeah, that might help.
Nice.
Yeah, he says the deeper failure behind all this was supposing that an answer can be mysterious. If a phenomenon feels mysterious, that's a fact about our state of knowledge, not about the phenomenon itself. The vitalists saw a mysterious gap in their knowledge and postulated a mysterious stuff that plugged that gap. And that is the ultimate and fully general explanation for why, again and again in humanity's history, people are shocked to discover that an incredibly mysterious question has a non-mysterious answer. I added that second shock there. It wasn't in the original text.
Should have been.
I liked it, yeah.
Mystery is a property of questions, not answers.
Good. Very good.
Yeah. And that's why he says that these things are the mysterious answers to mysterious questions things that we got to watch out for because they can hijack our thinking, stop it too early.
Yeah. Did you read the signs of the mysterious?
Yeah. Should we go over the signs?
Yeah, let's let's see, 4 things that are signs of mysterious answers. If the explanation acts as a curiosity stopper rather than an anticipation controller, by which he means if you couldn't guess a bunch of answers, but like some of that you're like, oh, but that one couldn't be true because this, or if you make a theory falsifiable, you are controlling your anticipation in some way.
Well, and just to keep like the whatever politically charged train rolling, that doesn't explain like ACAB doesn't explain why cops are shooting tear gas at people and not beanbags, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't constrain. If I say, hey, what do you think will happen here? The quote answer, all cops are bad, might say, oh, they'll do something bad, but it doesn't give you like a way to constrain your guesses, right?
I think very importantly, it also doesn't tell you why some bad people shoot pepper spray. Some bad people who aren't cops don't shoot pepper spray at people. Like, there's lots of bad people out there, but most of them are not going down lines of protesters shooting pepper spray at them. So what the hell did that label help you anticipate differently?
Nothing.
Yeah, I also
exactly.
disagree that people are bad.
I think there's definitely some bad people out there.
I think there are people who do bad actions. I don't think from the inside anybody's actually twirling their mustache going, "Wahaha, now we'll pour this chemical into their water supply."
No. Of course not. Nobody thinks that they are a monster. Very, very few people think that they are a monster, but that doesn't matter to me. I don't care what people think about themselves. I care about whether their actions are negatively impacting me and my loved ones, and that is what makes them bad.
This sounds like a conversation more suited for the rest of the conversation, actually.
Right.
So let's put a pin in that one.
Yeah.
Second, the hypothesis has no moving parts. The model is not a specific complex mechanism, but a blankly solid substance or force. The mysterious substance or mysterious force may be said to be here or there, to cause this or that, but the reason why the mysterious force behaves thus is wrapped in a blank unity.
Chemistry did it.
Yeah.
Third, those who proffer the explanation cherish their ignorance. They speak proudly of how the phenomenon defeats ordinary science, or is unlike merely mundane phenomena.
Crystals did it.
Yeah.
Your science can't explain the vibrations of my crystals, man.
Man, we were just talking about those Himalayan salt lamps that people think purify negative energy.
Yeah.
I kind of want to get one just because, like, they're pretty.
I got one. Well, I got one as a gift, but it's pretty and it looks great. There's this little alcove in my kitchen.
I keep wondering if you can lick it, though. You probably can't lick it.
You can lick anything, but it doesn't taste like salt.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, like, but they probably put some kind of, like, coating on it or
yeah,
something.
it's enameled or something. It does not taste like salt.
So I kind of just want to get a big chunk of Himalayan salt that's a salt lick that, like, looks pretty as a lamp, but that I can occasionally also just break a piece off of and put in my mouth. But
Ew! Why would you just put raw salt in your mouth?
because it's delicious.
No, it's not. It's salty.
Well,
I
that
guess
means
goes
you're not
without
salt
saying.
deficient.
Shit.
If you're, real quick life hack: how to know if you're salt deficient? Put a little bit of salt on your finger and lick it, and if it tastes delicious, you probably need more salt in your diet.
Okay.
If you're eating ash, you're probably good. Anyway,
I
fourth,
do eat a lot of salt, so
yeah, you're probably good.
okay.
Fourth, even after the answer is given, the phenomenon is still a mystery and possesses the same quality of wonderful inexplicability that it had at the start. So, yeah, if you're thinking something might be a mysterious answer rather than a real answer, run these criteria by it.
So you had a bone to pick with mysterious answers?
Oh, no, the thing I was saying before was just that, like, I was agreeing with the premise of the sequence, which is that, like, answers are not mysterious. Or questions are not mysterious. Like, the property of mysteriousness is the property of the fact that you don't understand something.
Right.
Not that, like, yeah.
Yeah.
I think a good candidate that's not politically charged, and I make a joke about this. I think I must have read it somewhere because it's too funny to come from me. Where this was in one of the We Want More discussion threads I was on, or discussion channels. Someone was talking about like consciousness and etc. And I was like, oh, you're using the C word.
Mm-hmm.
And in philosophy, I use the C word as consciousness. And it's like, no, that can't be your answer. Consciousness isn't an answer. And not because it's a mysterious phenomena, because we don't have a good, succinct explanation for it.
Yeah.
We've got a volume of like, yeah, this is basically kind of what we're talking about.
It's kind of like when people say, maybe it's string theory. And I'm like, don't talk to me about string theory.
Yeah.
I kind of feel that way about all the fundamental physical forces, but I strongly suspect this is just because I don't know enough physics.
Maybe...
Like, I don't know why gravity makes things with mass move towards each other, or exert forces upon each other at all times. It just, like, the answer gravity tells me that, and I guess that does drastically change what I expect to happen in the universe, but I still want to know, like, why? Why did they do that? And I feel like there is an answer, and I just...
There is. I recommend reading A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking.
I've read a number of things about gravity and some of the other fundamental forces, but it never quite sticks. I don't think I really grok it. Maybe I'll try it again someday.
Oh man, the word grok is such an interesting history, and I'll post it in the show notes if I remember, because I will talk about it for a long time.
It was invented by Heinlein in Stranger in a Strange Land.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it became like the programmers who were nerds and had read Heinlein when the internet happened made it a word again and brought it into the common lexicon because they loved that word.
Yeah. Well,
and it was a really good word to use for programming things.
I think it's a good word in general to have because it really highlights the difference between like really understanding something, right? And
knowing a fact and really understanding all of the components of that fact.
Yeah. Being able to reverse engineer,
like having a model in your head that has moving parts, I think I forget if that was how he described it in here, but that's a really good way to kind of visualize what it feels like to know a fact as like something I read in a textbook, and I trust science, which you should trust science, and textbooks are generally like a pretty good source of info, but versus like I can actually imagine every step of the process of tectonic plates like separating and how that causes mountains to form and sea fissures and affects the migration of animals and early humans. And
there's like nothing mysterious about it anymore.
Yeah, which is good.
Right, yeah.
Oh, can we real quick rant about Unweaving the Rainbow, Stephen?
Yes, but I'm going to plug, instead of A Brief History of Time, we should do A Briefer History of Time, the most recent edition, because I found it much more accessible and actually just a better read. So if you're going to read one or the other, read the newest.
I think they're both very good.
I think they are, but A Briefer History has more new stuff in it. And
it does.
I think it's just, for me, it was just more succinct.
Is it actually briefer?
Yeah.
There's more stuff and it's briefer.
No, did I say more? I think that, it's shorter.
No, you said newer.
No, they added a few updates to models that had since been, like, new discoveries.
Okay.
So it had some, what is it called? Addendums.
Mm-hmm.
Not the word addendums.
Errata?
No.
It was addendums, it was adjustments, and just, like I said, as far as briefer, I just, if you're going at it from, like, I want to know about this.
And I want it now.
Yeah, and I want it now and not in 3 hours. I don't know. Anyway, yes. So I've talked about Unweaving the Rainbow before, so I'll let you give your sales pitch or your whatever you're going to do.
No, just my response really is that, wait, who wrote Unweaving the Rainbow, the original?
Richard Dawkins.
The poem.
Keats.
Okay, yeah, that's it, Keats. So this dude Keats writes, bless you. This dude Keats writes a poem about rainbows being
sucks.
Yeah, well, he's like, science is like taking apart beautiful natural phenomenon like the rainbow, separating it into its base components and then like making it boring.
Newton destroyed the beauty of the rainbow by reducing it to prismatic colors.
And like so like the book on Weaving the Rainbow is just a rebuttal to this poem specifically, but that concept in general of understanding things makes them ugly and boring and not, like no longer inspiring and majestic and beautiful. Like Richard Dawkins takes apart a bunch of things in this book and down to like, and screams about like, isn't this cool? Look, if you can keep going down more. And then there's quarks, and quarks are cool too. And then, oh my God, look at this evolutionary biology things. Did you know that? It's just every time you start to understand something, then it becomes more complex. And then you understand each of these new phenomena, and then they all become more complex. It makes everything like more, I don't know, more of a model in your head with moving parts.
And more often than not, the real explanation, I think every time the real explanation is more satisfying, not just like intellectually, but more interesting than the fake explanation.
You know more about how the world works now. If you know how prismatic colors work, then now you can create eyeglasses. You can, I don't know, you can make an LED, you can start like, because we invented all this shit from knowing about colored wavelengths and how that works.
And I think just on
it gives us more power.
I think just on an aesthetic level, I find things more beautiful and I appreciate them more when I understand just how crazy complex they are, and I have more understanding. Like just looking at a tree is like, it's a cool tree, it's a pretty tree. I've evolved to like trees, but like thinking about the whole evolution of plant life on Earth and how we got from
thinking about the fact that this tree will be here when my grandchildren are dead.
Yeah. All the advanced knowledge, I think, makes things even more beautiful and more filling me with awe and wonder than if I hadn't had that knowledge.
Absolutely. I don't know.
So Keats is full of shit is what we're saying. Fuck that guy.
My other sales pitch for this book is
Glad
that
he died young.
I think many people's exposure to Richard Dawkins is him like angrily ranting at
On
anti-evolutionists
Twitter.
or Twitter, like anti-evolutionists or anti-scientists or religious people or whatever. And so like The God Delusion, I think, was the first book I read by him, and it's a very like annoyed tone. It doesn't make it annoying to read. It was very fun to read, but Unweaving the Rainbow is just pure passion. Like it's full of it's full of this.
I love when he evangelizes about science because I love just watching somebody love something so much.
Yeah, he's got the same sort of passion and poetry, the poetic way to illustrate that passion that like Carl Sagan had.
Yeah,
and it's contagious.
Even in his writing, for some reason, I like that. There was a passage that stuck in my head. I forget what book it was from. Might have been God Delusion. I think it was a different one, but anyway, like Richard Dawkins is writing about the Pleistocene era and like some fossil, and then suddenly he just breaks into poetry and starts writing a poem about like, oh, poor Pleistocene mother wailing as like her child is being taken away by a hawk.
Shit.
Oh yeah, the Ton child who they found its skeleton and its eyes had characteristic claw marks of an eagle, and so
and
like
then Richard Dawkins just writes a poem about this.
Yeah.
And was it any good, this poem?
I thought it was good. It was just a few lines, but it was it was memorable.
But it's just the idea that he's moved to
poor
think
Ton
about
mother weeping in the savannah or something like that. Like
yeah, it was just little things like that. It's clear that this is from an interested place rather than like a let me smash the keyboard angrily, griping at these people on the internet who are wrong kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Which again, I'm not shitting on it. I think that can be fun to read too. But
I really wish we didn't have a third post now, because that is a perfect segue into our main topic.
We'll bring through the third post real fast.
Okay. Yeah, the third post honestly is so short and fast that I have almost no
Can we
notes
summarize
on
it to lol emergence?
Yeah. So the third post is the futility of emergence, and the two quotes I pulled from it are: emergence has become very popular, just as saying magic used to be very popular. And its usage fits all the checklist items that we not just read, but that we earlier read for a mysterious answer to a mysterious question. That's all I pulled from it.
I found this one really funny. I just want to like kind of say some of the best lines from it. For example, taken literally, that description fits every phenomenon in our universe above the level of individual quarks, which is part of the problem. Imagine pointing to a market crash and saying, "It's not a quark!" Does that feel like an explanation? No. Then neither should saying it's an emergent phenomenon.
Yeah. I find this post very interesting because at the time that it was posted, saying things are emergent properties or emergent systems was in fact very popular.
Oh my god, it was like a meme
all the time.
Yeah, it was like, oh my god, look at the emergent properties of this embryo turning into look at the emergent properties of the brain creating consciousness, and this is an emergent property. I was like, stop using that word, stop it.
And now that isn't done anymore, right?
I haven't seen it very much.
I haven't seen it at all, I think, for a number of years.
I've seen it used, and I've seen it used in ways that I don't protest, because, for example, Eliezer writes, it's the noun emergence that I protest rather than the verb emerges from.
Yeah.
And so I've seen the word emergent used, but then it goes on to explain what it emerges from, so I was like, oh, okay, I'm not pissed off by this word anymore, because it's not being used as a semantic stop sign anymore.
Yeah, or as a mysterious answer.
Or, yeah.
How much do you think like this sort of thing could be attributed to Eliezer and his circle of people that were all talking about this sort of stuff?
I don't know. I also wonder that about people started really focusing on skewed data in science, like replication crisis. That was it, and it was right after the rationality community was bitching about people not replicating studies a lot.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's weird timing. But who knows? I mean, a lot of people
obviously he's always been kind of on the leading edge of this intellectual field, right? He talks with other people in that area, and he's probably not the only one who's making these sort of observations. I always wondered like how much of it is direct influence of this stuff and how much is it like talking to other people and also knowing what's going on.
I wonder if someone in the Berkeley community might know these things. Oh, there's got to be some kind of lore keeper.
If I had to guess, I would say that this was probably one voice in a chorus of people complaining about the use of the word emergence, and that it added to the noise that finally shut it down.
It's interesting. I think the fact that he doesn't have any sort of degree makes things popularly not be attributed to him. Like, for example, I saw the paperclip maximizer a couple years ago attributed to Nick Bostrom. And while like Nick and Eliezer were on the same forums and talking about these sorts of things, and he, says specifically, yes, this originated on the SL4 forums. It could have been Nick. It could have been any one of us. I think it was basically him that came up with the paperclip maximizer as a literal concept.
When he was on
with paperclips.
When he was on Sam Harris's podcast, Harris brings up the paperclip maximizer, and he's like, "Now I think that was Bostrom," and he's like, "As far as I know, it was me."
Yeah,
but it because it wasn't archived. There's no way to demonstrate. But he's like, "I think I remember that might have been me."
Right. And that's the weird thing. Like, people are like, "Okay, which one of these people in this circle is the Oxford professor, Nick Bostrom? Okay, we're attributing it to him because if we, it makes the quote seem more prestigious if you can put after it Nick Bostrom, professor at Harvard, right? Or at Oxford or whatever it is. Like, people are more likely to believe the quote just by seeing the name after it having a degree.
I don't think that's too bad of a heuristic.
No. I don't think it's a bad heuristic at all, but I also think it's unfortunate that people will misattribute things to other people that have higher credentials.
Yeah.
In this case, at least there's like some plausible explanation for the fact that it's not like, no, look, my book came out 2 years before yours,
right.
And it's like, no, we actually can't prove it, and I don't. He said that he thinks it's him. And maybe he just doesn't want to like stand up and take credit too loud because he can't prove it. Yeah.
No. Eliezer wants to stand up and take credit for things.
Well, like maybe not at the expense of. This was just.
Have you read Inadequate Equilibria? Part of that book is very much about bragging about things.
Yeah, I think that in this particular case, maybe it was just because like there's no way to prove it, and it doesn't like. I think, and I'm putting my.
Google it right now. Who invented the concept? I'm going to Google it right now. Who invented the concept of the paperclip maximizer?
Well, I mean, whatever Google says, it was somewhere on one of those chains, probably.
Yeah.
My guess.
Nick Bostrom.
my guess for
a thought experiment described by Swedish philosopher Nick Bostrom in 2003 in Instrumental Convergence. So,
Yeah, I was only making my guess on. Like, specifically not wanting to derail Harris's show, and also not wanting to say, no, forget Bostrom, was me who did it.
Right.
And like when there's no way to prove that it was him, and it's like, what's the point? The really important thing is that this idea is out there, and it gains traction in outside of FAI friendly artificial intelligence research communities, right?
Yeah.
So like it's this one's less about like no, it's me, I want the points, and it's more just like I'm glad people have this idea in their head.
You don't want to start all the stupid controversy when what you're really here for is saving the world from AI.
Right.
Yeah. I also think there might be an argument to be made that Bostrom coined it and Eliezer popularized it.
I think if anything, it would be the opposite, because Bostrom is the one that has a book where he explains it, whereas Eliezer and him were just, chatting on the SL4 forums when supposedly it was originally first coined.
Oh, Interesting, but ultimately, maybe we should get back to the podcast topic.
Yes. So our posts for next fortnight are going to be positive bias, look into the dark, and say not complexity.
I love all of these. I think this is the sequence I read the most.
Yeah, this is like the big, important chunk of sequence that I also tend to direct people to if I'm trying to, give them somewhere to start.
And I forget.
It's very intimidating if it's like, oh, I'm interested in this rationalist stuff. Where do I start? And it's like, here, read this Bible of rationality.
Yeah.
Instead, you read this book of rationality, and I forget if it's part of the map and territory sequence or if it's its own thing, or mysterious answers to mysterious questions. But in any case, yeah, great stuff. I'm looking forward to these next posts too. And on a meta level, I'm glad we began including these sections. It's a good excuse to go back through these, and they're fun.
Yeah.
I agree.
So for our main topic, so we have a Discord, and there's chat that goes on the Discord sometimes. And like any, public place, there's varying, people want different norms to, match their own personal styles because everyone's more comfortable with their own style. And mainly what it was that some people were saying that it seems that there's too much like confrontationalism and not enough niceness. And I don't know, there wasn't like one big thing that happened. There were a couple people that left, and in at least one of those cases I was just like, wow, someone needs to just have a slightly thicker skin here. But you know, that person was still he was a cool person, and I okay, both these people that left were cool people, and I really like them, and I miss having them in the community. But it's okay. As a brief sidetrack, as you guys are probably very aware, have been having this lifelong battle with depression kind of thing, as many rationalists do. And one of the things I do to combat that specifically is to seek out joyous, positive things and indulge in them. Like Steven Universe, for example, is one of my
You unweave a bunch of rainbows.
The what?
I said you go and you unweave a bunch of rainbows.
Every rainbow I find, I tear it to shreds. But no, I specifically seek out wholesome, awesome, happy things because that helps me to be more of a normal person. And
it affects people around you really positively too. It's like it's a good life hack to just be the kind of person you want to see in the world, and then you'll attract the kind of people that you want to be around and make their lives better.
Yeah, and I just think in general,
or you could do the opposite.
I would like to have in general in the rationalist community a norm of anti-cynicism and of just being jollier. Like Christmas is my favorite holiday for a reason, and I think it's that's basically kind of what I want to talk about today, like how to be more charitable and friendly online.
I have lots of thoughts. So many thoughts.
Me too. Can I jump in with one quick one?
Oh, you may. And then I want to jump in with one quick one after you.
Totally. Or you take as much time as you want. But I remembered when there was discussion, the one we mentioned where people left, and somebody was like, well, people just need thicker skin or something.
I was going to also talk about this.
And I really disagree with that sentiment. I had this image of like, you shouldn't have to like be jumped into the rationality community. Right. Or like jumping in a gang sense of we're like, all right, we're going to all kick the shit out of you for a minute and then you're in the club. Like you shouldn't need, and you know, there's a difference between like in a pejorative colloquial sense of being a snowflake that can't handle anything and you need to, you know, keep everything safe. I'm using quotes on all of those. I think that there's a valuable conversation to have there. But like I'm saying, it doesn't need to be like a safe space for everybody in that, you know, there can't be challenging ideas. That's different. But it shouldn't be a place where it's like, oh no, I get to call you a dick or an asshole or a piece of shit that because I disagree with you. Like, no, there doesn't need to be like literal name calling. And it, like I said, the idea that you should need thick skin to enter the community, I think what you need is there's a difference in skin thickness and mind thickness, maybe. I'm torturing the analogy, but the idea that
what I would say is that never mind, you're still.
Go ahead.
Okay. Let me see if this sounds right. I think rather than thick skinness, what you need to join the community is the ability to be ready to be wrong. Or be open to ideas. Like, don't yell at somebody for suggesting something like, oh, that's stupid. Just be like, I think that's wrong for these reasons, but like, I'm open to being wrong too. What do you think? Maybe just not personalizing stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree.
But also being willing to be critiqued, but not and not take that personally.
Right. And so that was what I was trying to just differentiate with my bad analogy of mind thickness. Like you can't, if being thin-skinned means that like, no, I can't have my ideas challenged, then obviously this isn't the community for you, right?
I would say, yeah.
But that's not what anybody comes in looking for, to my understanding. Not people who have joined the Discord anyway. The people who came and left because they thought it would be like, oh, cool, this can be a collaborative space where people have this an interesting take on something or a project they're working on, and they positively collaborate to make their.
I want that community. Honestly,
I want that too, and. If I'm allowed to plug another Discord, although I don't have a link, so I'll have to find a way to get this out there. I'll find out if there's a way to link to it. I can, but I'm not sure if they want it public or not.
Well, we'll ask.
There is one called University of Bays that is essentially that thing, where there's different channels for different things. If you've got a side project, like, hey, I've got this, you jokingly, perhaps not, had the idea of making an absinthe distillery.
I'm dead ass.
So if you want a place for advice, and if you post it to the wrong place, you'd be like, that's a stupid idea. That's business will never get off the ground. Why would you waste your time? There's already absinthe out there. That's not the answer you're looking for. You want to know, how do I do this? How do I get a small business going? And so if
or if it is a bad idea, I want somebody to say, not you're an idiot, but that idea is not a good idea for these reasons.
Right, and so it's part of presentation, and I'm not saying that you have to, like, there's also the failure mode of that where it's like, oh, so now I need to couch everything I say in this 2 paragraphs on either side of like, you're great, I like.
Let me list all my triggers, like, or all the triggers that are possibly like part of this idea first, and then caveat it again and again. Yeah.
Right, and then the person responding before, like, if what you really want to hear is like, is this a good idea? They shouldn't have to give like 2 paragraphs disclaimer at the top of like, you're a great person, your ideas are generally good, but I think this idea has weaknesses for this and this. It would be nice to just get a no and here's why. And so like directness is fine. It's hard to differentiate the difference between like being direct and being way blunter than necessary.
It is really hard to read tone. I recently had a conflict between some friends that was just because they were texting to each other and both of them had a paranoia that one was talking down to the other, or that one was kind of, I don't know, like they had these assumptions coming into this discussion that like, oh, this person doesn't really want to do this with me. They just are suggesting they're saying they want to do it because they're doing it out of pity, and this person doesn't even really want to do this. They're just, I don't know, it was like they both had these preconceptions coming in, and then they were just able to interpret every sentence that was exchanged in this. It was on Discord as, oh well, they said, I will take you. Doesn't that sound kind of aggressive? It sounds like they're mad. And I was like, no, I think they're saying, I will take you.
You absolutely have to link that Key and Peele sketch.
I already put it in my notes to send you.
Excellent.
I think we put this in before, but
well,
without even talking about it, there's a 3-minute YouTube video, Key and Peele comedy sketch that's totally worth watching and hits this point right on the head. Yeah. But like it hits it the absurd, and that's why it's funny. But like in the real, I'm wondering, I guess, how to cultivate that norm, especially in a way where it's like, you know, I
have suggestions.
I'm trying to keep this like general, so it's not me complaining about the Discord that like we started. But like that's also the one I'm thinking about the most. Like I also don't want to spend 10 hours a week talking with you guys about how to moderate stuff, because I don't want to do that. Frankly, I won't. I will delete the whole thing before I spend an hour a week moderating it.
I have suggestions. One of those suggestions involves letting other people volunteer to be mods.
Yes,
but with the agreement that like all of the conspirators and the people that are most active, maybe on the Discord, who want to be the mods, can kind of get together, talk about what we think the norm should be, what things should be punishable by what, like stern warning or
no. I don't. I hate that idea because that. I mean, I'm not just saying flat out no. I'm just saying like I dislike that idea because like I don't want to have a list of rules that like you aren't being nice enough and cheery enough, and now the neighborhood scold is going to come to you and be like, hey, I noticed you weren't being happy enough for our Discord, maybe you should put some more smileys in there. I think listing the general
like suggestions for the norms somewhere in the Discord though, and then having them there that people can see, and letting enough people know that these are the norms, that if somebody comes in and just starts like spewing racist like words and like obviously using Nazi signs and saying that like
right,
Scott Alexander is clearly a Nazi because he thinks that Austrian Jews are the superior race, which is actually a thing that I saw happen.
Wait, he's a Nazi because
no, it's so bad. I'll tell you this whole story later. This is one of the stressful things that happened that like led to me not being on the last episode. I was talking about this before we started recording, but
I'm torn on having a mod team like that at all, because I don't think
maybe not even I wouldn't even maybe give them the title of mods, but I would just say, hey, like whoever wants to, you know, like whoever cares about these values, we're gonna stick them up here in the Discord. Like, hey, we prefer this to be a non-cynical place where people are collaborative and where people can also.
But I think that's more of
give criticism and accept criticism without personalizing it.
I think that's more of a community effort. Yeah, like everyone has to be like, this is who we are, and if someone, and I think so far this has worked out pretty well on the Discord server, where
it's still small though. I can see if it gets bigger, it could start getting more out of control.
Yeah, but if people do find that people are being too cynical or too nasty, someone brings it up, and then there's, you know, an afternoon where that is the topic for the day, where everyone's like, are we too mean? Are we too nice? Like whatever. But I like the fact that the community does kind of hash it out, and I don't want there to be, you know,
hard and fast rules
walking around with you know, the niceness cops
with their niceness nightsticks,
right,
that they can use to ban people.
If anyone isn't familiar with the game We Happy Few, this fits perfectly with that. Everyone takes a drug called Joy, and it basically puts them on happy LSD trips. And then
That's great.
you've got the cops who run around basically hitting people who aren't taking enough Joy, or they get kicked out of town. So like we don't want that. I really don't want any moderation. Like I feel like the community as a whole honestly doesn't really need it.
I don't know. What, like, for example, say that you get a troll that is just being a total dick in order to disrupt things repeatedly. People ask them to stop and they don't.
I think that's beyond the scope of the discussion, though, because trolls are easy to handle. You ban the troll. You're like, yeah, go away. This is more like the general atmosphere of how people interact.
Yeah, like, I agree. If someone comes on and is being trolly or deliberately provocative in the sense of, I don't know, posting Al-Qaeda beheadings or something, and they won't stop, then it's like, all right, cool. I'm not going to try and explain to you the norms of the community. You're just out.
But I like
maybe that's a good norm, actually. The point at which, like, basically everybody else agrees, like, wow, fuck that person, is the point where you should ban somebody.
yeah. But the thing is, like, I find myself, and I think you might have mentioned this too, Stephen, like, I find myself, even on the Discord in general, being a grumpier, nastier person than I am. And it's not just on the Discord, it's anytime I'm online. Like, there's something about the keyboard that I stop. Maybe it's because I can't see the people and their reactions.
Do you expose yourself to outrage porn too? I wonder about that.
Not anymore. Used to.
I was so much angrier and more depressed and upset when I was part of the social justice community, and they just constantly are broadcasting outrage porn all the time. Here's the thing that everybody's upset about today. You need to be upset about it too. Find out here. Yeah,
no, it's been years for me since I've been into that, and it has been a huge quality of life improvement to cut out the outrage porn entirely.
Also, sorry if I keep posting on social justice in particular. A thing happened.
Okay.
Well, and there's an obvious, like,
I'm bitter about it.
No, I mean, I think that's fine. I would, like, in general, we're all in favor of the goal of, like, yes, everyone should be treated humanely and respected, but that's, I mean, social justice, I think, as you're using it, as I use it, doesn't mean that.
Right.
No,
so,
I mean, well, it used to mean that.
Exactly.
Social justice warriors kind of turned into a different thing. But anyway, I think I did want to bring up before we lose track of this, Aniash was originally saying, like, someone did leave, and it seemed like maybe that person needed a thicker skin, and I was...
Well, what I meant specifically by that was the person left because they had a personal disagreement with someone who has slightly more power on the Discord. They have the channel boffin role, which means they can set emojis for the channel. They can move the server channels around, basically doing the kind of...
The emoji lord.
Yeah.
You have upset the emoji lord.
They get to do some of the... maintenance work of a Discord server, which takes the load off of me and Steven and you, so that we don't have to do that, right? And I really appreciate, David, if you're listening, I really appreciate your work in this and doing this. But anyways, they
Wes too helps.
The what?
Wes helps too as channel
boffin.
boffin.
Wes is now also channel boffin. He wasn't at the time that this happened.
Oh, okay.
At the time, David was the only channel boffin, and...
Wait, is that what they actually call it, channel boffin?
That's the name of the role.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so this person thought that David was like the owner of the Discord or something, and they had a personal falling out with David and left because of that. Because, like, I don't like this person. It's their Discord. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, that's like, if you have to be friends with the Discord owner, that's... Like, there's a lot of people on my Discord, or not my Discord. God, I'm sorry.
Our Discord. It doesn't matter.
Look like a dick. Yeah, there's a lot of people on
Comrade,
the Bayesian...
it's everyone's Discord.
On the Bayesian Conspiracy Discord, there's a bunch of people who I think my line was, they have weird alien values that are different from my own. And I don't know... they're not people that normally I would strike up a friendship with, but I don't have to be friends with everyone on the Discord, right? I can just coexist on the Discord.
Can I finish my thought?
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out that there is actually, like, clinically proven, there's a range of people's tolerability for social distress.
Mm-hmm.
They call them, like, very sensitive people, VSPs. They exist as a discrete group. There's also ADD in particular has this, but a lot of non-neurotypical neurotypes have much more rejection sensitivity, which just means you are more likely to interpret things as social rejection and get really upset about it. And it's important to know that people they do have different levels of skin thickness, but it's just genetic. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, using scare quotes with skin thickness, I'm talking about emotional skin thickness. Some people are genetically born with thinner skins than others, and it's just like, it's important to know that, yeah, some people are going to get really, they're going to take things really personally, and I think it's perfectly within that person's, like, rights to have just decided this is personally upsetting enough for me that I feel the need to leave.
Oh yeah, totally. Everyone has the right to exit at any time.
Like, I don't even know how much this is. I think having a thick skin can be a learned skill. But, for example, one of my partners is borderline, and we're working on trying to thicken their proverbial emotional skin with exposure therapy. And it's hard. It hurts. It's like, it's not something that I would say, oh, it's easy to, like, just grow a thicker skin is actually, like, pretty insensitive thing to tell
almost
someone.
as hard as literally growing a thicker skin.
Yeah.
It's like, go cure your, like, genetic mental illness.
Right.
Well,
It's easy. It's not.
I mean, part of that is like, we shouldn't make every community that we are a part of or that we make ourselves like have to curtail to the most delicate of the entire population, right?
Right.
I think there's an importance just to acknowledge that people like that are out there and know how to interact with them. I completely agree with what I think you're saying, which is we don't need to go the social justice route of making everything accessible and safe.
Yeah, and I think, maybe the difference in how this play out in the community would be more like if someone says, all right, you know what, this isn't the place I thought it was, I'm getting out. When they leave, they, instead of people saying, man, what a pussy, they say,
no one said that.
Well, not in so many words.
No one said that at all.
Okay. Well,
If
so
anything,
good.
It sounded
people
like
said, "That
Stephen was just
sucks."
kind of exaggerating the thing that people said.
Yeah,
That,
so-
like grow thicker skin could be exaggerated too. Man, what a pussy.
That's sort of what I meant.
Okay. I'm sorry it came off that way. I didn't mean it that way.
No,
don't think you did.
I don't think it was even your thing that I was thinking of.
Well, because the only thing I remember seeing was people saying, "Man, that sucks. Maybe we should like look at who we are as people and make things,
Yeah, that was actually
easier."
a really like. I like the fact that was the response.
Yeah, like the person who said that, I think
Makes me like
maybe
the
he just
community.
needs a thicker skin was me, because I don't know what to do when someone is like, I have a personal, gripe with someone I think is in power, and therefore I'm going to leave.
And
You let them leave.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
honestly forgetting almost every detail here because this happened almost 2 weeks ago and I didn't see the whole thing.
Oh, this was way before that.
Oh, okay. Then yeah. Then I certainly have no idea.
Okay.
About the specifics of all of this. Then, like, I guess. And this was actually shameless plug for the other podcast I do called We Want More. The last episode, or the one that came out 2 days ago, upon the airing of this episode, has Eneasz Brodsky on as our guest.
Yeah.
And we talk about this with Brian about. It was funny because Brian pointed out exactly. He's like, what's funny is if I was reading these words, I would feel like you're being an asshole, but because it's you and I can see your face, I don't feel like you're being an asshole.
Right.
And that's part of the challenge of online discourse as a whole. I think that's what you were getting at a minute ago.
Yeah,
That
and-
like it's so much easier to A, read in more negativity, and B, maybe even be more negative online than you are in real life because you're not interacting with a person, you're interacting with letters.
Yeah, and I want to focus not on the situation that happened on our specific Discord and specific people, because first of all, I don't think that's that big a thing in the grand scheme of things. They
Same
were
here.
Small kerfuffles.
It was more the thing that like caused our attention to turn to this issue.
Yeah, and also
Inciting
two
incident.
separate people said when people started saying, I think maybe we should be nicer, I feel personally called out by this, and I don't want those people to feel personally called out by this, partly because I like those people and I don't want them to be uncomfortable, but also because, again, I don't think this is not a personal calling out coming to Jesus moment for any individual person that we're airing public laundry now to try to shame them or anything. It is nothing like that. So I want to move very far away from specifics like that and just to general, like how to do interneting and text communications better as a people, because this is more and more of our lives, especially as we're locked up inside, and it's there's ways to be more cordial online.
There's also ways to you want to go ahead, Stephen?
Oh, I was just gonna say that's what I've been trying to gear it at the whole time, like because it's not just like our Discord. I don't really. I mean, I care about it. I like that it's there, but this is a general phenomena.
Yes,
and
It's general community stuff.
yeah, but it's observable across anything that involves people not talking face to face.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
whether
I
that's
meant
your
more specifically, like the rationalist community kind of is at the point where it's going to be what we make it. It's still in its infancy, and especially the Denver rationalist community, like we can choose the norms, like we can choose what founder effects we want to have, like filter down to the descendants of our community here.
well, I think one of those founder effects that we should try to introduce is the concept of charity. not in terms of giving money to things, but in terms of
Not just that. That's a good one, though.
well, I mean, yeah, okay. But the more important one is the one where when you read what people say, you always try to interpret it in the way that is the least aggressive and the least mean as possible from that person, even if you suspect that might be giving them too much credit, because generally people overcompensate, especially online, towards this person is attacking me, and I don't know why that is, but I think it's wonderful practice to, at any point in time you're reading something that maybe angers you a little bit, is to look at it like, what if someone was saying that line with a smile on their face? Like, is it possible that this is some kind of jokey thing, or just trying to point something out in a lighthearted manner that rather than a, you suck, I hate you manner, more the like, isn't this kind of silly? We can joke about this kind of thing.
Yeah. The reason that does tend to happen online is negativity bias. First of all, humans tend to focus on negatives, especially when social interactions, social distress is involved. It's like social distress in your community is very hard to ignore. Again, I recently went through like a different community that I'm involved in went through a weird, stressful thing, and there was a bunch of like social discord, it was on the Discord, but there was Discord on the Discord, and I was like at the time trying to work and I had already planned some like social obligation. I was like, I can't pay attention to this right now. I couldn't not pay attention to it. I was just like, oh my god, I need to know what's happening. I need to. Mm-hmm. It was horrible. And then there's the catastrophization of if you don't know, like, okay, you hear something terrible happened, and your brain immediately jumps to something probably much more terrible than what actually happened. Mm-hmm. But man, there's something else I was gonna say. Wow, there goes that thought.
I'll tag
It'll come back.
Yeah, I think that the perceived negativity online, like, I mean, I don't know exactly how to combat it. Like, part of it, if you assume that somebody's being nicer than your initial assumption, like, so if you check that and say, okay, maybe they're meaning this nicely, like, I have a technique for doing that, and this has actually been, I think, basically since texting started being a thing, which is like, okay, if I read that and with people that I knew, and like if I read that and it makes me like upset, I'm going to assume that I misunderstood it or that they misconveyed it. Mm-hmm. And like in my life, it's easy as saying, "Wait, did you mean this?" And like whatever hurtful thing or something, they're like, "Oh hell no, I meant it like this." And it's like, "Oh yeah, see, that makes much more sense." Mm-hmm. And so that sounds doable. If someone says, "Yeah, I meant it the mean way, you dumbass," then like then at least you've got your answer.
Then you send them back an emoji of like a middle finger,
right?
And you're like, "Well, get out of my life, then."
Yeah, and so part of what I do is I generally avoid sarcasm when I'm talking online, unless I'm making it very clear.
Unless you follow everything with a winky emoji.
Yeah, or I mean, I even use that non-sarcastically. So like I use, that's the other thing I do is I use emojis heavily.
Yeah.
Like I throw in a heart emoji, throw in like a thumbs up or a smiley, like whatever it is. Then it's like they can at least, unless they're reading sarcasm into everything, then they can say, okay, that's the emotion he was meaning when he typed that. So
I was laughing about emojis earlier, but actually I think that we as a society, especially the business world and like the politics, what should norm the use of emojis, maybe we can make ones that are less silly so people will feel less dumb using them. But the thing is, we as humans get the majority of our like contextual clues about what people mean by body language, facial expression, and tone of voice. And when you cut that all out, you lose a lot of information.
I think God, I know I'm going to get shit for this because I'm using EvoPsych here, but I think that there has been a lot of evolutionary pressure on humans to, when there is, or maybe cultural evolution as opposed to biological evolution, because this is more of a cultural thing, to when there is a social conflict, there's ways to diffuse the tension around them and to help people get through the conflict without strangling each other. And we have things like, nervousness in general, showing that, hey, I'm not here trying to flex on you, I'm kind of nervous bringing this up, and joking, and like you said, tone of voice, right? Even smiling at people and being like, haha, here's this thing. And like most of the time when people laugh, especially in more fraught situations, it has nothing to do with humor at all. Like if you were to go back and read something,
that's what humor is. Laughter is a way of diffusing tension.
It is, yeah. It's one of the uses of it. One of the big ones. And so there are all these things that we use both to signal that we are not here trying to strangle each other, that just don't you can't put them online, really. And so when you read something that someone says, you aren't getting all those cues from them. Instead, all you're seeing is the words that are not couched with all this armor. And it's like, oh shit, I'm being attacked. Fuck this guy. And I think that's a huge issue, which is why we need to really overcompensate in the other direction. That, start taking things charitably.
That was my thought. There, it's back. I have some strategies that I personally use, such as tit for two tats from game theory, basically. And some of these are just like kind of interventions. If I notice I'm really upset about something, I like having a basic rule that I come back to. So one is tit for two tats. Somebody can screw up twice, and I will forgive them twice because it was probably a misunderstanding. And I also, I'll point it out, like, oh, it was really hurtful when you said that I was stupid for having that idea. I don't mind if you said the idea was stupid, but, like, calling me a stupid person, I think, was kind of mean. And they're like, oh, okay. And then, like, maybe do it again. If they do it a third time, then I'm going to get mad. But the first two times I'm going to explain why that upset me, and then say, like, but I figure you probably didn't mean to do that. So, like, we're still friends. Then we might start having a problem after the third time. Tit for two tats, by the way, just is a strategy that tends to win when you it depends on the different models, different social situations. For example, they'll use game theory to simulate wars or to simulate negotiations and so forth and so on, but across the board, tit for two tats tends to be one of the ones that wins in the end. I'll post a link to, there's a visual explanation of this made by somebody who likes to animate ideas. Cool person, cool video, helps really explain some game theory concepts in the form of cute cartoons and fun little interactive flash games.
I think one of the most important concepts behind charity is the idea that your interlocutor is, first of all, not stupid. They are trying to be legible to you, and this is a project both of you are working on together to be, legible to each other and figure out what meaning is being sent across. And also that they are just try to assume people are being misunderstood as much as possible rather than being actively aggressive.
Yeah, I like the thought of steelmanning people. Steelman the thing that they say, like try to, if you see something and you're reading it as like, say the word "I will take you," and you're noticing like, oh, that sounds angry. That sounds like they're resentful of me. Be like, okay, I'm gonna think of the Steelman version of that, which is, I will take you. Like, I will. I'm saying right now that this is something that's important to me, and I'll do it. Read it. Try reading it that way. I think there's a CBT skill of reframing. If you use a reframing like this regularly enough, you'll start to do it automatically. I still haven't perfected it. I still go back into my pit of anxiety sometimes and will read messages from friends as like, oh no, they hate me. I've messed up the relationship. They think I'm dumb but like, much less than I used to.
I think another thing, a second skill that you can do, which is probably more palatable to some people than this charitable thing, because you can only be charitable for so long, is just asking. Like, if you read something and it seems to be aggressive, be like, that seems a bit aggressive. Is this what you meant by it? Like, just ask, is this what you meant? Because I'm getting tones that I don't like. There's
simple tools like a tit for two tats or the charitable principle, whatever. There's more complicated tools that are very effective. Again, partner of a borderline person. Here we go. There's Gottman-Rappaport. The Gottman-Rappaport intervention is, I think it was developed for marital counseling, but it's a really good format for two people to resolve a discussion. One of the things is one person takes the role of speaker and one of listener. And the person who's speaker has to completely finish their thought or like explain the reason that they're upset before the listener is allowed to interject anything except clarifying questions or things like, oh, I see, or oh, I get it, or like, oh, how did that feel?
That sounds horrible aside from the most formal settings.
It is. It's bad, but like it works. It works so well.
Well,
the thing is, I'm
usually not trying to negotiate a marriage with people online.
No, but I mean, it works. It could work for two best friends having a fight about whether Batman or Spider-Man is better.
Oh,
We talked about this a couple episodes ago, actually, and you laid that out.
Okay, so yeah, you know that one. There's also the rationalist version, which is double crux, and it's basically very similar. Both of them, you're encouraged to use I statements. You say, when this thing happened, I felt like this. When you said this, it made me feel like diminished. And I would prefer in the future if this. And so, first of all, you're taking responsibility for your own emotions.
Is that cruxing?
no.
That I'm talking about Gottman Rappaport, but
sorry, yeah.
in both of them, though, what you're trying to do is, I think the goal to both Cruxing and Gottman Rappaport is to get to the point where you understand the person's argument well enough that sort of the same thing as steel manning. You could describe their argument in a way that they would kind of nod and go, "Oh yeah, no, that's what I meant. Actually, that was phrased better than than I had put it."
I don't even think that people need to go that far.
That's why I said this is an intense tool.
Yeah,
like if you have a really bad disagreement,
yes,
that you need to resolve, use one of these.
But in general, casual conversation is being like, did I hear you right when you said this?
Yeah. Nonviolent communication is another good tactic in general. That's where I get I statements from.
Yeah, the Rappaport rules makes me think of this Dan Dennett article where he lays out it's less stringent than like the marital counseling one, but the short version is like you should be able to restate your opponent, and this is more for like intellectual disagreements, which sounds a little more applicable. And it was like you should be able to restate your opponent's position in terms that make them say, "Man, I wish I thought to put it that way." That's
right.
Really
that was what I was thinking of actually.
Yeah, and it's and you might have said that. Sorry, I was making a note to include that Dennett link in the show notes.
No, I'm glad that you explained where it came from, because I was like, somebody at some point said it like this, and then I said it wrong. So
oh no, you're
thank you
good.
for clarifying.
What was funny about that is when Sam Harris and Dan Dennett had their like spat about free will back and forth on the internet. Harris wrote back, he's like, "I feel like your beloved Rappaport's rules failed you, because the most charitable thing you could say about my book is that at least it exists to show everyone how wrong this is." And it's like, and what's great about that is because Dennett is like, in my perception of him from watching his talks, he's a fairly like warm and fuzzy dude, and so that does sound uncharacteristically harsh of him. And so that, you know, when they had, I think, two podcast episodes on this, they were super chill about it. And there was none of this like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm glad that your bullshit's out there to show everyone how dumb this is." Nothing like that came out during a conversation. It's just so easy for that to happen on two people who are on very friendly terms about a subject that neither of them really have like any skin in the game on, really, right? Mm-hmm. Like, other than their own
it's an intellectual disagreement. It's not like, I don't know, somebody criticizing your religion or like saying that your wife is dumb or something.
Exactly. Yeah. So like over something this esoteric,
it's kind of abstract.
It was able to get charged enough between two guys that are on decent terms and are professional,
full-grown adults and professionals, yeah, with like degrees, and I found it really funny. Sorry, I love watching like people get salty.
Totally. And then you can watch them be unsalty when they're talking.
Yeah.
I mean, for what it's worth, and this is more specific, but and you can do this. We do this all the time at work too, you know, and it's rarely to solve like a saltiness disagreement, more to resolve a confusion disagreement, or confusion altercation. Text or voice chat is an option on a lot of platforms, and there are voice channels you can jump into on our Discord. There's one I use all the time at work on our, and that's what's better about Slack is it's easy to call people. I like Slack more than Discord, but
Slack's good.
And there's definitely perks to Discord that Slack doesn't have, but hey, you know what? We're not getting anywhere. Let's jump on a chat, and then a 5-minute chat solves a 30-minute text exchange.
Yeah, that can happen.
And just then that way, it's so much easier to lay out where you're coming from, and like, yes, this is why this, and this. I'm thinking of work stuff rather than life stuff. And it's like, oh, okay. See, I thought you were saying this, and this. And it's like, see, that's why we were talking circles past each other. Now I've solved that.
I think really frequently people have what seem like disagreements and are really just misunderstanding what the other person's trying to say or what they're upset about.
And I do think the responsibility is kind of like on both sides. It's the person listening has to also...
No, they switch in Gottman Rappaport.
Okay.
You switch roles.
Okay. No, but I just meant like the person who feels like they're being offended can also... There's a lot of cultures across the U.S. and a whole bunch of them are, you know, in any online gathering because, you know, you can log in from anywhere in the U.S. There's places on the U.S. where one of the most loving things you can do is, you know, give people a ribbing, call them a dumbass, you know? You're like, you dumbass. And these sorts of cultures where you show affection by being a bit abrasive at each other because you wouldn't do that with strangers
By the
do
way,
exist. And sometimes just think, maybe the person who's talking with me is just from one of those cultures where being a little bit aggressive is a sign that we are on good terms with each other.
I was actually going to say
That we don't have to pussyfoot around and put on airs and pretend to be these, polite little aristocrats. We can just be real with each other.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, we weren't trying to name names, but I know that one of the people who was involved in this thing, who is more on the abrasive end, is absolutely doing that. I've been around this person and their friend group, and they kind of punch each other in the shoulder and be like, "Man, you dumbass! What how could you possibly think that Iron Man's better than Spider-Man? You offend me with this opinion." But everybody is doing this, and they're all doing it with a tone of voice that you lose on Discord. But
right.
it's not like, oh, you fucking idiot! How could you possibly think that it's like lol, ribbing, elbow poke, and then and you're supposed to go to use, you're supposed to drop into that same persona and fight back, but in a it's a joking I don't know, imagine the thing bros do where they punch each other and they're like, "Man, bro," and I don't know.
Yeah, basically.
It's not supposed to be actually aggressive a lot of the time. It's supposed to be that sort of cultural thing you're talking about, Inyash, where you're showing respect for another person by being like, "I know you can roll with this."
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's the general phenomenon of counter signaling, which you can do in this context where if I called, if you had some idea, Inyash, and I was like, "Oh yeah, good one, dumbass," I'm joking, and you laugh because I said it, right?
Yeah.
If you proposed it to a colleague at work whom you've shared 3 sentences with, and they said that, you'd be like, "The fuck?"
Yeah.
And a good example, anecdote from my life that doesn't come from the internet was, my uncle doesn't have a right arm from the elbow down. It got wrecked in a train accident.
Dang.
So he's got one of those contraptions where you flex your shoulders and opens up the hook, and rubber bands close the hook. And he was over for Thanksgiving, and I could see him holding his plate and trying to do stuff, and I was like, "Need a hand?" And I kind of nudge him with my elbow.
Yeah.
And that's a joke, right?
Disabled people joke about their disabilities so much, and they're so hilarious. And the reason they do it, first of all, is kind of as a community of disabled people. It'd be I don't know, 2 blind people being like, "Do you see what I'm saying? I haven't seen anything in 8 years." And laugh, and then all of their non-disabled friends hanging out with them get so uncomfortable.
Right. And what I was getting at though is
love
that
it.
I could make that joke with my uncle. I wouldn't make that joke with somebody at the supermarket who I saw struggling to load their cart or something, right?
Yeah.
I'd be like, "Can I give you some help or something?" I don't know how I would phrase it without using the word hand, but whatever.
So and then the person will be like, "Oh yeah, as you can see, I'm missing one. You got 2. I'll take one."
They may well. This is maybe not the perfect example, but you see what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
When
Well,
there's
you
a
don't
level
know that they might react that way, or if they might react with kind of "I'm fine, I can do this myself." God, I hate when people just
There's an acknowledgement that we don't have to wear these polite masks because
that
we know each other.
Yeah, and even the level beyond that, it's okay that we can make these kind of abrasive jokes because we have rapport.
Yeah.
The
rapport, and then you also understand what they mean. Something that was really, there's a while where I thought that there was a hard and fast rule, don't make rape jokes. But then I realized that sometimes, for example, 2 women who maybe have a backstory of both having been raped or having experienced something in their lives that is actually going out to a bar and then occasionally making, "Oh man, that sounds kind of rape culture," or I don't know, saying the same joke that would have been fucked up coming from somebody else, but the joke is I don't know, you do a Peter Griffin voice from Family Guy and you say "Oh, women can't drive" or something like that, and the joke is that you're making fun of the people who say that sort of thing. But the thing is, if these 2 people who you didn't know had these background experiences, they I don't know, if you as a bystander came by and sat down next to them at the bar and were listening and tried to also just start making rape jokes because you're like, oh, these 2 women are making rape jokes, awesome.
Yeah, it would not fly.
Yeah. There's very much knowing a person, knowing the context.
It's a bit of a balance because I don't want to be in a server that's all just cynicism and people being like, "No, that would never work." And the Quirrell type of cynicism where you can't argue with it because it certainly seems to be true based on the world, but on the other hand, just makes things terrible and gloomy all the time. But I also don't want to be in a community where everyone is constantly pussyfooting around, walking on eggshells to make sure no one is ever offended by anything. And won't you think of the children? Like I would like something in between that.
I've been in a dystopian community. It was a Facebook group. It might still be around if you want to look for it. It was called Polyamorous Atheists or something like that. It got taken over by social justice to the point where there was this message that you had to read before you were allowed to enter that was like, it was paragraphs and paragraphs talking about systemic oppression.
Oh, God.
Talking about the fact that, the word polyamorous, people use the word poly shorthand generally, and this, you were supposed to use poly-a for polyamorous because poly, some people use that for Polynesian and they used it first. You were not allowed to use any ableist language whatsoever, including the words stupid and dumb, because that's making fun of people with intellectual disabilities.
I like how you describe this culture as dystopian.
Absolutely.
It certainly
it gets worse.
I don't know if we have to. I'm already getting annoyed hearing about it. But if you want to, if the annoyance helps illustrate your points, please continue.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not saying stop. I'm just saying I feel it already.
Yeah.
So the ableism got to the point where we need to make this. We need to also keep in mind people who have like lower socioeconomic, or like maybe they, I don't know, or, depending on what device they're looking at, they might not be able to see pictures. So you're not allowed to post a picture unless you post a caption describing what the picture is.
Oh God. Okay. See, and you're
not allowed to post an emoji without describing winky face.
Yeah.
If it's a text-to-speech thing, it says it already.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that they went like so above and the thing was that the moderators were so draconian that sometimes a new person would join. Like I saw this, that somebody's like, I'm new here and I'm having a really big problem. And I was really hoping that I could talk to somebody about like my relationship because right now it's leaving me really depressed. And then like posts an emoji. And then 3 mods will descend upon this person being like, you messed up in these particular ways. Yeah. You didn't tag your emoji. Like, I don't know, say I'm having a really stupid problem. Like, you used the word stupid. Like, I will see people like that join, immediately leave.
I think, and like the people who sometimes, I think it's been mentioned, someone said like, I have a right to be an asshole. I don't think when people make that claim, they aren't saying I want, to be a troll and make the things terrible. What they're saying is I do not want to turn into that sort of a dystopian hellscape of politeness, and I've seen this happen before, and so I reserve the right to not participate in that sort of thing,
I think there's a happy medium to be struck though, where
so I can see both sides. I
think you have a right to be an asshole. Like if you're jokingly being an asshole, also just insert some winky emojis or something. Like a lot of the ways that I have found, I've done some amount of emotional distress, like conflict resolution things over text, and one of the things you do is you use some kind of like Gottman Rappaport intervention or like some janky version of it where maybe you're just doing nonviolent communication, using your I statements, making sure that it's not like you're a bad person, but like this was an action that made me feel bad. Or like you always do whatever, and it's like this one time, last week this happened, and that like I noticed this has happened a few other times, and
and the thing about the right to be an asshole, the problem is that who gets to define what's an asshole, right?
Right.
That's the same reason I'm against people saying it's okay to punch Nazis, because then right away, very quickly, Nazi turns into whatever this person is against, right?
I think there was
anyone who eats meat is a Nazi, so it's okay to physically assault people who eat meat.
Well, not even that, but then there's a case of mistaken identity. I remember a story about somebody who got punched because somebody thought that they had a swastika tattoo, but it was actually something else.
I think they got stabbed.
Oh, stabbed?
Stabbed.
Yeah,
Wasn't this in like Washington, like right around that whole thing when we had that episode?
Yeah. So that's another reason why you could push back and say, well, your definition of asshole is not the same as mine, so I think the server should have everyone's ability to be however they want to be.
Oh yeah, but I'm glad you circled back to cynicism, because that's, I think, the difference that makes.
Oh, I wanted to talk about that too.
That really I wanted to hit on, and I kind of lost sight of it. Like, there's a difference between like pointing out why an idea is bad and doing it in a constructive way that lets someone better the idea, or at least maybe if it's one that is completely empty, that there's no way to better it, at least to illustrate what is missing, right? This your idea is not complete. We can't save it. Here's the things it would need to actually work.
I always consider that like I feel like I'm being asked to do free labor for other people's dumb ideas. So basically, I just ignore things like that.
Well, so then you ignore it, but you don't chime in to say that's a bad idea.
Yeah, you don't have to do that much labor either. You could just say like, oh, I think I disagree with that. I think I saw something. There was some study that I saw a while ago. But anyway, I have like low confidence in that, but I don't have the time to check that right now. But just that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, if this was me, I wouldn't even jump in and have to say like, well, here's the 10 things I think it's missing, and here's your 50-point plan to get there. I might just say, I feel like that's missing a few crucial steps, and right now isn't executable.
Yeah, you could say like, my understanding is this thing, but I might be wrong. I don't know, but here's how. I don't know.
Or you could just ignore it.
Yeah, or you can ignore it, depending on how little you want to interact with it at all.
Yeah, and
maybe it's 0%.
There's no rule saying you have to comment on everything, right? So, but there's the version that is like actually helpful, and the one that's not, where all you're doing is just propping yourself up by making another idea or another person feel smaller and stupid, right?
Yeah.
And that's not constructive to anybody. And as far as like my vision for what I'd imagine a rationalist community to be like, I picture it way closer to the first thing than the second. You don't walk into a room, and we don't have this problem in meet space meetups, and I think that's part of why like online stuff is just different. If someone came in with some half-baked idea, there'd be a fun talk about it, right? If someone wanted to talk about it, it wouldn't just be like oh, that's dumb.
Yeah,
and moving on. And that's dumb, and you're dumb for thinking it.
There's the anonymity of the internet, but there's also the fact that you're not in the room with the person.
Yeah.
So say like Kevin, who's a fictional member of our Denver community, came in and said, man, like, I don't know, communism is awesome. Brand new to the meetup, is just like, hey guys, like, wow, you're all rationalists. I want to talk to you about why communism is awesome and better than capitalism. I think people would probably argue about that, but they would do it in such a way as like we'd be sitting in a circle, Kevin would be there too, and then like, or it would never, like, nobody would go to Kevin and be like, you're an idiot, get out of here.
I know.
Or they wouldn't go up and like just be like, here's the reasons your ideas are wrong, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then walk away, and then Kevin's left standing there. Somebody would come up to him and be like, wow, that person was just a dick to you, like, the thing is, the person's there.
I know I talked about in the We Want More recording that we did a few days ago, I talked about how much I love Quirrell, because I really do love Quirrell. He's a great character.
He's a very good character.
Yeah, and I have a lot of sympathy for him. And I think a lot of rationalists love that sort of Quirrell thing just as much as I do. But I think it's always pretty damn important to, not always, but often check in and maybe think to yourself, what would Quirrell do? Or what would Quirrell say? And if you're typing something that Quirrell would say, maybe just delete it. Because Quirrell is never a good thing to have in a community. He's always just going to make things bad.
I think it's good to have people that have outlier opinions to keep everybody sane, but I don't want that to be... Stephen was talking about...
We should have exactly one person like that, and
cynicism.
His name should be Robin Hansen.
Yeah.
I think like you don't want a friend... you don't want Quirrell as a friend, you want Harry as a friend. Harry will be the sane person who'll point out why your idea is bad, but he won't do it in a way that says, and everyone who believes it is stupid. He won't do the full Quirrell, rail on cynicism, right?
I think every community could use one Quirrell, but no community should be just Quirrells, or even half Quirrells, or even 2 Quirrells. One Quirrell is the perfect amount of Quirrell for any community.
If you guys remember my review of Talking to Strangers, they both talk about the holy fool, who is the person outside of the community by, nature of maybe having Down syndrome or something, the quote-unquote person that used to be called the village idiot. But the thing is that the holy fool glorifies the village idiot because there was this acknowledgement that this is the person who can come in and point out something that everybody else is overlooking. Or like the Emperor's New Clothes, the little child who says, he's not wearing anything! Like, there needs to be that person in the community. There also needs to be, there's another thing from
but
Talking to Strangers.
But you don't want the whole community to be like that.
Of the incredibly paranoid person who was totally, like, all about Bernie Madoff is doing this stuff and trying to tell everybody but doing it by going to his superior, wearing a trench coat and a hat with, like, a secret document box and depositing it on his desk and doing all kinds, because he's so fucking paranoid. It was his boss. He could have just walked up to him and say, hey, I think Bernie Madoff is doing X, Y. Like, incredibly paranoid people sometimes are really useful to have around, but you don't want everyone to be basically like paranoid schizophrenic level, because that would be awful.
So I love
Rorschach or something. I don't know.
I love what you helped put in my head, Inyash, of relating this all to Harry Potter and Methods of Rationality characters. Moody would not work well in a room full of 4 other Moodies.
Oh my god!
Like they wouldn't get anywhere. They'd be distrusting of everything each other's saying.
That's the schizophrenic, paranoid, like level person that you want one of.
Exactly. having a Moody is perfect. Having 3 out of 4 Moodies would be out of a group would be a nightmare. They would just
be suspicious of each other.
Yes, exactly.
And get nothing done.
And I know we do have a hard stop time, so I think it's time to... Oh yeah, we're past it.
One more thing.
All right.
As long as it's fast.
Yeah, Steven was talking about cynicism. I just want to say that I, in particular, I agree with this, and how I talk about this is that I hate haters. I hate hater culture and community. Like, there's some people that think it's cool to sit around and, like, just make fun of things or to trash things, and I've been in friend groups or, like, communities where the thing to do is to trash talk stuff, and, like, it's this weird insecurity thing, I think. This is, unfortunately, like, my experience with this is all male friend groups, often tend to have this thing where it's like it's uncool to like something that just makes you like a nerd or sap or something. So like, oh man, like let's all get together and play this stupid fucking video game. Oh my god, like this game is so bad. Like, or I don't know, like, oh man, you like that band? That band is so gay. Like, just like people getting together and just shitting on everything. And, like, the only way you can also be cool is by also being, like, maximally cynical and hating everything and making fun of it. And it's just, like, I hate being in communities like that. It feels like everybody is having these incredible insecurity responses to things all the time and need validation from everybody else. Like, just please be vulnerable. Just somebody go, I love that show. Shut the fuck up. Steven Universe is fucking great. Like, or whatever.
That's a hill I'm ready to fight on hard, and this can be a nice final note. Never shit on something somebody likes. You know,
oh my God,
like don't get
yeah.
me wrong. Like
Unless
like,
what they like is really shitty.
I disagree, man. Oh, you said that tongue in
Even
cheek.
then, I mean,
Okay,
like-
yeah. Like I mean, life's
If you hate the thing, you can say, I personally dislike this thing, but like...
that's what you say.
I love how much you love it.
Yeah, and I can say that about literally anything, man.
Yeah.
Like and just the general thing is like life in general sucks a bit for most people some of the time at the very least.
Life is suffering, as the Buddha would say.
All
right.
So real quick.
And so if someone finds something that they enjoy in it, don't tell them they're stupid for enjoying it.
No. Well, so I would never like tell someone they're bad for enjoying something and like try to mock them for that, because I think that's bullshit.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
If something does suck and you're like, oh man, if you want a version of that I think is better, check this out or something,
like,
right?
Specifically, my hate on the Star Trek Picard that aired this year. Like, you were there for that. That was just a couple days ago. Was that wrong?
I think you were expressing your opinion.
Yeah.
And like you did it in a
Yeah.
tongue-in-cheek hard way that says no one should watch it or something, but you didn't say you're an idiot if you like it.
Right.
That's the difference. And like
Okay.
if someone liked it, who cares, man? Like they're
Yeah, they
good.
might have their reasons. Like, there's a lot of things that just I don't like because
Quite a few people I know liked it.
my ex-girlfriend loved the Scooby-Doo cartoon and would watch it endlessly, and I would kind of make fun of her for it. She would make fun of herself for it, but it was like, the thing is, she's like, I don't know, it's got this nostalgia factor. I love the animation. I love the, I don't know, it's like she had perfectly good reasons for loving this thing. I had perfectly good reasons for not. And this didn't need to be a conflict between us, and it wasn't. But sometimes people will do like, oh, you have bad tastes, and then they get offended by that, and you're like, yeah, that band sucks. Let me like, and they'll argue to you, trying to get you to stop liking this band, or
God, that
or
shit is
to
so
agree
annoying.
that you're stupid for liking this band, and it's just, why are you doing this? Stop. That some things are subjective.
Dude, in fucking junior high at one point, I was humming the White Stuff because I'm a huge Weird Al nerd. I love all of Weird Al
Al's
stuff.
great.
Yeah. And
I
like,
saw him live.
and someone was like,
So good.
Are you singing the right stuff? And which was one of those boy bands, right? And I was like, no, I'm singing the White Stuff by Weird Al. And they're like, nuh-uh, you fag, you're singing the right stuff. And I was like, no. And I quoted them the lyrics of the White Stuff because I'm a Weird Al nerd. I had them memorized. They're like, oh, okay, that's cool then. Which, first of all, why the fuck did I feel the need to defend myself? I could have been like, yeah, man, I like
Because
what I
you were
like.
being attacked. I mean,
But instead I was like, no, man, I'm not one of those lamers that likes the Backstreet Boys or whoever it was. I'm singing Weird Al. But which I don't
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I feel bad that I felt the need to defend myself at all instead
On
of
one
just
hand,
flipping him
like,
a bird.
there's like an idealized version of you that would have been, but like also you were being attacked and you were just responding kind of with like a panic response, probably.
Yeah, but more than anything,
wouldn't
fuck
hold it
that
against
guy
yourself.
for being a douche.
Yeah,
Totally.
seriously.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good stop point.
We got to thank a patron.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, this week we are thanking Luke Hanks. Luke, I hope
Luke
this
Hanks.
wasn't too terrible of an episode for you because it was mainly about community norms, but maybe you'd liked hearing about how to talk online more civilly.
Community norms are super like special interest of mine, so maybe Luke is like
Maybe Luke's
really
like you.
into it. Yeah.
Cool.
Or if not, Luke, tell us what you do on here.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thanks, Luke. We really appreciate it.
We do.
It's awesome.
you help keep this thing running.
You do. I was going to say that before we wrap up, I would have liked to have time to talk about the protests and all the fun stuff around that, but that takes 30 minutes and we didn't have it today. So
Okay. Yeah,
maybe
there's a lot
we'll
of
maybe we'll get
stuff.
to it in a couple weeks.
Okay, well, we may have someone on who disagrees with us on this particular thing, and they can explain why they hate civility and want the world to be terrible. And maybe we will be convinced.
All right. And on that note, we got to roll. So see you guys in a couple weeks. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye. Stay safe.
I think black licorice is what you get when like you scrub the devil's taint with a cotton swab. Taint liquor.